Okay, there we go. All right, so like I said, it's doing this is indeed like man, this job. I don't even call it a job or work. It's much more expanded than that, but it really gets you to thinking and to seeing things and to putting stuff together and to meeting people and looking at the coincidences that don't become coincidences anymore. And you see different people saying the same thing from different places, and you really get a whole idea of what exactly is taking place here on the planet, not only from the people that live in it, but also the knowledge that's within it and what you see around you. And if you have the opportunity to engage in this for, as your job, basically, as your work, the time that you have to spend in generating currency, if that was allocated to you going into understanding fully spiritual knowledge, then you would already be adept. The reality is also, and I'm going to definitely just adhere to my notes here, is that, okay, yeah, first of all, I just want to tell these people, by the way, the ones that are keeping up much of the ruckus, the malevolent forces, that since they are now declaring battle and killing more children, that by all means, spiritually, we're going to be equipping ourselves, and we're going to put on the whole armor of the Most High. This is the point now everyone has to realize, that if these people don't see Mashiach or Messiah, they're going to go nuts, because that's the only thing that they actually fear. Meaning what you see going on in the Arab countries and in Israel is a result of their confusion about who Shin, or the second or third component, who the son or the daughter really is. So what we have to do is show them that it's actually us, meaning that the Christ or the Messiah, when you, in the Kundalini, when you study it in all texts, it shows that it's the human being. So in real essence, I'm telling you now as a public service announcement, that if you don't show these folks that are acting crazy the powers of an activated human and how it can do well for this planet, and actually do well for this planet, by the way, because we're going to talk about how many individuals have activated and just totally took it into another direction.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always. What do we got today?
Today, we're exploring the whole truth. It's a presentation by Sevan Bomar, and it's a fascinating blend of ancient wisdom, symbolism and mythology, and then it gets into some pretty out there claims.
Definitely sounds like our kind of material.
Bomar starts off with a warning for anyone who might be sensitive to spiritual matters. He suggests maybe spending some time in nature to kind of center yourself before diving in.
Okay, I can see that. Sets the tone right.
It does. He even hints that people have died for this kind of knowledge.
Wow, okay, so right off the bat, we know this is serious stuff for Bomar.
It is. So he jumps right into this idea that all religions, all of them, are built upon a foundation of Kabbalistic knowledge. He describes Kabbalah as this kind of hidden code, like it's embedded in reality.
Almost like a programming language, underpinning our existence, especially when it comes to understanding higher powers.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, he uses the example of the six-pointed star, which he calls the sexer.
Yeah.
He says it represents, the union of spiritual forces, the masculine and the feminine, the creation of life.
Right. And what's really fascinating is that Bomar points out this symbol isn't just some arbitrary invention. It's found in nature.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, in the structure of water molecules and even in the way light refracts.
So there's this connection, this deeper connection between the physical and the spiritual realm.
Exactly. The same patterns, the same principles at work in both. And then Bomar takes this idea even further, and he connects the Garden of Eden story to DNA.
Okay, now that is interesting. How does he do that?
He uses this analogy of trees representing humanity. And it's not just, a poetic metaphor. He gives some pretty fascinating examples.
Okay, give me an example.
He talks about how certain trees have been used for healing for centuries. Their bark, their leaves, they contain medicinal properties. And then he also talks about how some trees are poisonous. Their sap can be used to create harmful substances.
Right. I've heard of that.
He even mentions these stories of trees that can alter appearances. It's like they hold the secrets of transformation within them.
Wow. So it's like he's saying trees, they're not just passive organisms. They hold this blueprint for human potential, both for good and for bad.
Precisely. And this is where he brings it all back to the serpent in the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
He suggests that the serpent represents the knowledge of manipulating DNA,
So he's reframing the whole story, not as a tale of sin and temptation.
but as a story about the acquisition of knowledge, the knowledge of how to alter life itself.
Okay, so then Bomar introduces the Anunnaki, but he makes it very clear these are not gods.
Right. He calls them genetic manipulators.
And he believes they split the original human DNA, leading to, well, the duality of man and woman, and also the experience of death.
It's a bold claim. Really makes you question what we know about our origins, you know?
Definitely challenges the traditional narrative. And then he brings in this whole other layer of symbolism with the pine cone.
He explains that the pine cone, it's a symbol of the pineal gland, right? That tiny gland in the center of our brains.
Oh, I see where he's going with this.
And Bomar suggests that the pineal gland is actually connected to accessing higher knowledge, almost like a dormant antenna that can be activated through certain practices.
Like meditation or, those altered states of consciousness. So he's saying we have this potential for higher awareness, and it's locked away inside us.
Exactly. And the pineal gland, it's the key.
That is fascinating. And, this idea of hidden potential, it kind of connects back to what he was saying earlier about the serpent and the knowledge of manipulating DNA.
Right. Like we have this incredible power within us, but it's been suppressed or forgotten.
Okay, so we've got Kabbalah, DNA manipulation, the pineal gland. Where does Bomar go from here?
Well, next, he delves into this distinction between souls and spirits. And this can be a little confusing, I know.
Yeah, those terms are definitely thrown around a lot, so it would be helpful to clarify what he means by them.
Right. So Bomar describes the soul as our internal consciousness, the essence of who we are at our core.
Okay, so that's the soul. And then what about spirits?
He describes spirits as external consciousnesses, almost like, I don't know, disembodied beings that exist outside of our physical bodies.
Okay, so souls are internal, spirits are external. Got it. But why does he make this distinction? What's the significance?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. He believes that humans, we have a natural instinct to fear spirits. And he traces this fear all the way back to the Garden of Eden.
The Garden of Eden again.
He suggests that our first encounter with the spirit of the tree of knowledge, it was a painful one.
A kind of traumatic separation from a state of wholeness.
Exactly. So this primal fear, it's not just some irrational superstition.
It's embedded in our very being, stemming from this initial separation from, I guess, a higher state of consciousness.
It's a pretty powerful idea.
It is. So then he connects this back to the moon. He talks about the moon as a wisdom god, a symbol of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil.
Another layer of symbolism that ties into his overall narrative.
Bomar definitely likes to weave together these different threads, ancient myths, modern-day concepts.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is. But it's incredibly thought-provoking.
Makes you look at these ancient stories in a whole new light. Makes you question what we think we know about reality.
Okay, so we've covered Kabbalah, DNA manipulation, the pineal gland, the difference between souls and spirits, and even the moon as a symbol of wisdom. What's next?
Well, next he dives into the power of symbols. And this is where things get a little spooky.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So Bomar believes that symbols, they aren't just pretty pictures or abstract concepts, you know.
Okay, so then what are they?
He thinks they hold real power, like they can act as anchors for entities.
Well, hold on. Entities. You mean like spirit?
Yes, exactly. He describes it as astral piggybacking. Imagine like you're walking down a crowded street, right?
Yeah.
And someone subtly grabs onto your backpack. You might not even notice at first, but while they're hitching a ride, they're using your energy.
To get where they want to go?
Yeah. So Bomar suggests that certain symbols, they can create weak points in our energy field.
Almost like openings.
Openings that these entities can use to attach themselves. He's especially wary of symbols that represent power or control.
Like crowns, scepters.
Yeah, even certain religious icons.
So by surrounding ourselves with these symbols, we might be, unknowingly inviting these entities into our lives.
That's what he's suggesting. And he goes on to talk about this concept of tethering.
Tethering.
It's where people become so fixated on a particular god or belief system, right?
Yeah.
That they basically become controlled by it. They've given away their power, their free will, to something outside of themselves.
This reminds me of, those stories about people getting lost in cults.
Right.
Or extremist groups. They lose their sense of self, become completely absorbed by the group's ideology.
Exactly. And Bomar's saying this can happen on a much subtler level.
Through the symbols and beliefs we see every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's the solution? How do we protect ourselves from this astral piggybacking and tethering?
Well, Bomar believes the key is self-awareness and balance. We need to be mindful of the symbols and beliefs we're aligning ourselves with.
Making sure we're not giving away our power.
Exactly.
So he's encouraging, a more discerning approach to spirituality.
Yeah, one that, encourages critical thinking and personal empowerment.
Definitely. And I noticed that he doesn't shy away from calling out specific groups that he believes are using these tactics.
Yeah, and he gets into some pretty controversial territory.
Like when he starts talking about the Rothschild family.
Right, and their connection to what he calls the Red Lion.
Okay, the Rothschilds. Now things are getting interesting. They're obviously a wealthy and influential family, but what's this about a red lion?
He connects the Rothschilds to the symbol of the Red Lion,
Yeah.
hinting at their connection to this lineage of power and influence that goes way back.
Centuries.
He claims they've been manipulating events, working behind the scenes,
Using their wealth and knowledge.
Yeah, to shape the world to fit their own agenda.
He's basically saying they're puppet masters.
Pulling the strings of global politics and economics.
Wow.
And he accuses them specifically of manipulating the Hebrew tribes, choosing some for their purposes and then rejecting others.
Okay.
And he even goes so far as to say that they orchestrated modern Zionism as a deception.
For their own gain.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a pretty bold claim. I can see why this presentation might be considered controversial.
It definitely is. But whether you agree with him or not, Bomar is raising some important questions.
Like who really holds power in the world?
Right. And how is that power being used? He wants us to look beyond the surface, question the narratives that we've been given, think for ourselves.
I appreciate that he's not afraid to challenge the status quo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if it makes some people uncomfortable. But, I mean, it does sound like he's heading into some pretty conspiracy theory territory.
He is. And it's important to approach these claims with, a healthy dose of skepticism. But even if you don't buy everything he's saying, I think there's value in considering his perspective.
It's like a different lens to view the world through.
One that highlights the potential for hidden agendas and unseen influences.
It's definitely food for thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so where does Bomar take us next in this whirlwind of esoteric knowledge?
Well, he dives into the symbolism of the dog star.
The dog star.
Yeah, it might seem like a random jump, but it actually ties back into his earlier points about, entities and hidden influences.
Okay, I'm curious to see how he connects those dots. So tell me more about this dog star symbolism.
So the dog star is also known as Sirius, and Bomar, he links it to the Canaanite religion and the Egyptian god Set. He highlights the association of dogs with, attack, loyalty, blind obedience.
So he's suggesting that this symbolism relates to a form of control and manipulation.
That's been present throughout history.
That's interesting. So this dog star symbolism, it's connected to some kind of ancient power structure.
Mm-hmm.
One that's based on, fear and subservience.
Exactly. And he goes as far as to call it beast worship.
Beast worship.
Where powerful entities were believed to inhabit animals.
Leading to their veneration. So he's suggesting that this beast worship, it was like a precursor to more modern forms of control and manipulation.
Yeah, where powerful individuals or groups use fear and propaganda to control the masses.
It's a chilling thought, but it does make you wonder. I mean, we see these patterns repeating throughout history, don't we?
Right. Those in power using different tactics to maintain control.
So if this beast worship is the problem, what's the solution? What's the antidote to this manipulation?
Well, Bomar offers kind of a surprising solution. He says bioenergetics.
Bioenergetics. Okay, I'm not familiar with that term.
He believes that by understanding and manipulating our own energy systems, we can, break free from these external influences, reclaim our power.
So he's saying bioenergetics is a way to heal the damage done by these esoteric practices, restore balance.
Exactly. He emphasizes the importance of recognizing the entry points in our energy field, the places where these entities can attach.
I see.
And he even provides some specific examples of how to use magnets and other techniques to strengthen our energetic defenses.
So it's like building an energetic immune system to protect ourselves from these unseen things.
Right. And he stresses that this is not about becoming superhuman or, gaining supernatural powers.
Okay.
It's about reclaiming our natural state of balance and wholeness.
Yeah.
About becoming, conscious creators of our own reality.
That's a powerful message. It sounds like he's ultimately advocating for personal empowerment and self-awareness as the keys to overcoming these challenges.
Absolutely. And he emphasizes the importance of balance. Balance within ourselves, but also in our interactions with the world. He sees balance as this key to navigating the complexities of these esoteric ideas and, while reclaiming personal autonomy. He encourages listeners to develop a discerning eye, to question everything, not to blindly accept any single narrative.
Even his own.
Even his own.
That's a good reminder, especially when we're dealing with such complex and often controversial topics.
Right.
It's easy to get swept up in a particular narrative.
Yeah.
But it's important to maintain that critical perspective.
Yeah, to think for ourselves, exactly. And I think that's one of the most valuable takeaways from Bomar's presentation. He's challenging us to be active participants in our own lives, to question everything, to seek out our own truth.
Sounds like a pretty intense journey.
It is, but I have a feeling Bomar's not done with us yet. There's still more to uncover.
More to uncover in this deep dive into the whole truth. What else does he have in store?
Well, next he circles back to some of his earlier themes, but he adds some pretty fascinating new layers to the story. Buckle up, because things are about to get even more mind-bending.
I'm ready. Bring on the next layer of the mystery.
So remember how Bomar talked about the I Ching, that ancient Chinese text? Well, he comes back to it, but with a twist.
The I Ching, the one with all the hexagrams. Okay, remind me what he said about it before.
Well, he was saying it's not just a system of divination like it's usually understood.
Right.
He suggests it's actually a blueprint for, get this, genetic modification.
Whoa, wait, the I Ching. A guide to messing with DNA. How does he even connect those two things?
He explains that the I Ching, with its 64 hexagrams, actually represents a kind of code for manipulating traits, characteristics.
Okay, I'm listening.
Each hexagram, according to Bomar, corresponds to specific genetic sequences, and these sequences can be altered to create different outcomes.
So it's like he's saying the I Ching is a precursor to modern genetic engineering.
Right, like a way to tailor specific qualities in living beings way before CRISPR.
So he's suggesting that there have been groups, maybe individuals, who've known about this and used it throughout history to influence human development.
That's what he's saying. And he suggests this knowledge has been used for both good and bad, shaping the course of human evolution.
It makes you wonder if, some of the great leaps forward in human evolution or even some of the darker chapters could be tied to this ancient knowledge.
It's a fascinating idea. And it goes back to his points about the Anunnaki,
Right.
Right? Like there's this hidden hand guiding human evolution. And the I Ching is one of the keys to understanding how it works. And then he reminds us about the dangers of astral piggybacking.
Where those entities attach to us.
Right. He says we really need to be careful about protecting our energetic boundaries.
So it's like we're not just physical beings, right? We're energetic beings too.
Exactly. And we need to take care of our energetic health just as much as our physical health.
But what if we don't even realize we're being influenced? What are some signs?
That's a great question. Bomar says these entities can influence our thoughts, our emotions, even our physical health. He suggests that, maybe some of our negative thought patterns, even addictions, chronic illnesses, might stem from these external influences.
It is a bit unsettling to think that, maybe some of our struggles aren't entirely our own, like we might be carrying around these unseen passengers.
It is a bit unsettling, I agree. But Bomar also offers hope.
Okay, dude.
He reminds us that we have the power to reclaim our energy, to, clear out these negative influences and create a stronger, healthier, energetic field.
So it's not hopeless. We've got tools, we've got techniques.
We do. It's just a matter of becoming aware and taking responsibility for our own energetic well-being.
Okay, so what else?
Well, Bomar brings us back to that idea of tethering,
Where we get fixated on something and give our power away.
Exactly. He really emphasizes the importance of critical thinking, of questioning everything, of not blindly accepting any single narrative, even his own, he says.
So it's not just about being wary of external authorities, it's about being discerning within ourselves, right?
Yeah, questioning our own beliefs, making sure we're not clinging to something that's ultimately disempowering us.
It's about taking back control.
Yes. And then he brings us to what he calls the end game of all these esoteric practices, the creation of a new, superior man.
This is where it starts to sound a little dystopian.
It does, a bit. He describes this new man as a kind of hybrid, a being with, enhanced abilities, but ultimately subservient to those who hold the keys to this esoteric knowledge.
A world divided into those who control and those who are controlled. That's pretty dark.
It is, but he's presenting it as a warning, a call to wake up, to see what's happening before it's too late.
To reclaim our power, become conscious creators of our own reality.
He reminds us that we have the potential to evolve, to tap into our inherent divinity, to create a world of balance and harmony.
Wow, what a deep dive this has been. Bomar's presentation takes us from ancient myths to modern conspiracies, from DNA manipulation to the power of symbols. It's a lot to take in.
It really is, and it challenges us to think outside the box.
One thing that really struck me was Bomar's emphasis on personal responsibility. He's wary of external authorities, but believes in our ability to reclaim our power through self-awareness and balance. And, healthy skepticism.
Absolutely. It's like he's saying we can choose to be pawns, or we can awaken to our own potential and shape our reality. Pretty powerful stuff.
It really is. This deep dive has definitely left me with a lot to think about. Thanks for joining us on this exploration into the whole truth. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.